Alright, what's up guys? It's 89 Motars here and we have...
Eric.
Eric, alright. We're here at YCS, New Jersey. Where'd you place?
I placed 50th.
50th? Alright, and what deck are you playing?
Altergeist.
Altergeist? Alright, let's get right into it.
Sure. So, we played 3 copies of Multifaker. This is the deck, the card that made the deck meta. Can't really argue with that statement. It has 2 separate effects, which I think are pretty important to point out. The first effect is when a trap card is activated, after the resolution of it, you special summon from your hands. And the second effect is on summon, you special summon from your deck. So a lot of people, if they negate the initial effect in hand, and they'll destroy it, you haven't activated the effect on summon yet. If you can revive it back with a card such as Manifestation, special it, and then use effect special summon from deck, it basically didn't really stop anything at all. So that's something I think people should be wary of. Next card we play is 3 copies of Meluseek. This is basically, everyone plays this because if you open this turn 1, it's essentially Multifaker, since you can link it into the Linkuriboh. After it leaves the field, it floats, so you can search, and it's when it has another effect, it can attack directly, and after it deals battle damage, you can target a card and send it to the graveyard. So this helps to poke, and this helps you get rid of a lot of the nasty cards that normally would be hard to out. Unfortunately, this does target, as some other cards do in the deck, so untargetable, big, beefy monsters are a big problem, but we play some other cards to try and prevent that.
Did it help you win anything in time?
Yeah.
The new time ruling?
Absolutely, because, there have been times where you're in time, you're with 80-80, and, I can search, I can go for, I think, like, Marionetter is, like, a very strong card to start off with and help sustain your resources, but you're in time, you just want to get that damage in, you can just normal summon poke for the 500, assuming you're able to go into the battle phase right before time calls. I have a lot of draws, and one of them was that I had a Bone Meluseek ready from the Multifaker. I have another one, I normal summon it, I was ready to poke for 1,000, and I just was like, can we just it's 10 seconds, is battle phase alright? And the guy, he was like, nice, so yeah, battle phase is fine, not gonna stall, because he has 1 set card. And I was like, great, I'm gonna poke, and I look at the time, counting down 5 seconds, flips over the card, is Book of Eclipse, and we're like, oh that was the draw.
Book of Eclipse.
Right, so you can't really do anything about that, but, solid card. I think it has to be really a 3 of. We play 3 copies of Marionetter. So this card, on normal summon, it sets a trap, Altergeist trap from your deck. It means that, you can't get Ash because you're not searching it directly. It also has a secondary effect of targeting an Altergeist card and one in your graveyard, and then you swap it. I guess because the name is like Marionetter, it's like a puppet swapper. Some people also don't know that you can target itself. They'll do the thing where you play it and they read it, they're like, it can target itself. It's like, yeah, so a lot of times when you have Multifaker engraved, this is another way to get it off. Or you can normal summon and get the trap, then swap out with the Meluseek, attack, poke them, and then search. So this is a great way to really maintain your card advantage. We play 2 copies of Soap. So this is the so-called Kieran in the deck. It can't bounce itself, but you can target any Altergeist card, not just a monster, so your traps too. So when it's your turn, you just bounce your trap on one of theirs, and then you set the trap right there. There's really no loss in resources in that case. And when it hits the grave, you search for a trap. So there's the recycling mechanic with Manifestation to go into.
So then your errata helped?
For Manifestation, yeah, because if the Silk is already on the board and you activate Manifestation to target, if you chain Silk to bounce the Manifestation back, the card engraved will still get special summoned. It doesn't have to equip to it. So that's, that's really nice.
Broken.
Absolutely.
3 monsters.
And so that's, standard Altergeist lineup, but the one thing that some people are playing, some people aren't, there are a lot of people that are stuck on it, is the copy of Kunk. They think it's a garnet, it bricks you, and it hurts because you can't normal summon it. I opted to play it because even though it does have those cons, I think the pros outweigh it. It is an Altergeist name, so this means that you can shuffle it away with spoofing and reshuffle it back to get to prevent a negate attack. And when combined with Silk, since we have beefy monsters that really, we can only maybe bounce 1 at a time, negate 1 attack, because they're all hard ones per turns. I think this is pretty much one of the few cards that aren't hard ones per turns. You can use it again and again. So if they attack, and you have something like this, so you can negate the first attack. If they attack with the second one, you bounce with Silk, targeting this and the monster that attacked. Attack a 3rd time, negate. So that's how you're able to recycle it. It doesn't float, but it has an effect on special summon, where on summon you target another card, and as long as this is on the field, that effect is negated, so it works effectively as a Phoenix chain. This helped me a lot because on end phase or for cards that I know that are going to stay on the field to resolve to special summon. And you do this, and then you'll target the multi-roll. So for the Sky Striker matchup, they don't get those sets and things like that, or the Shizuku, like they won't get that because they all affect on end phase. Even things like, I would say, cards that want to stick around. So a light stage, I didn't want it to set one card. It was a torrential, and I know I can't, like, you know, flip it. So I would do this and set that. Small interactions, very nice. Now for the hand traps, we play 3 copies of Cherries. The extra deck is pretty open in terms of what we really need. I didn't need a lot in terms of toolboxes, so this helped because it severely crippled all the other matchups. We'll go into the extra deck later, but the 3 copies, I was unsure about maining it because I was a little scared that I just go against Rogue and it ended up being a dead draw, and that does happen. But I realized that if I was going to win and continue making top tables, I would eventually see meta. So, you know, can't really argue with that.
Perfect.
And then we have 2 Drolls for the next hand trap because this helps again with a lot of the other matchups.
Yep.
I play a few cards where it being a Spellcaster name and it having level 1 for the Linkuriboh is pretty pertinent.
Yeah.
I'll show that like in a second. So that's it for the hand monster account. It ended up being 17 monsters.
Okay, perfect. 17.
Yep. And for
Lucky
our spells, we only played 2.
Okay.
Secret Village
Spellcasters. Okay.
Main deck, and the Upstart Goblin.
Perfect.
So I think Upstart is pretty self-explanatory. It's the free draw, and this is why I said the Spellcaster name for draw was actually pretty pertinent because if you control a Spellcaster and they don't, they can't activate any spell cards. This is really such a blowout card for a lot of matchups. And if I didn't have anything, an Altergeist monster to summon, and I didn't think the Droll would have been strong enough to do, or if I knew that I had this, I think this lock would have been more pertinent. I would just normal summon the Droll and then activate the Secret Village, and they really can't do anything. A lot of the Sky Strikers, you can't initially out it, because cards such as the anti-spell, you can chain, Twin Twisters, etc. But going first, once that's on the field, once that's set, you can't do anything. And even as even as a top deck, if you just have any Spellcaster laying around and you're going against the Sky Striker match, they have multi-roll a few cards set. If you top deck this, you just activate it, and then if they can't respond to that initial activation, they're locked. All those things are just blocking the back row, and you can immediately start going up from there. And that's why I think it's a blowout card. I'm not playing the Metaverse because I'm only playing this one copy of it, because if you see 2, it could clog and things like that. You just see 1, it's a one of. It is cheesy, it's a gimmick, but
it works. It obviously works.
It's a blowout card, so I didn't see a reason not to play it, but to play extras just seemed like a bit too much, really. So we go into traps. That leaves 21 traps. We play 3 copies of Protocol. This is a very strong card since it has a continuous effect of saying that your Altergeist cards on the field can't be negated. So a lot of the people, when you're activating the effect of Multifaker in hand, that's fine, and then on summon, the effect special summon from deck, they go Ash. If you have the set, you can just flip it and chain, and now it protects and things like that. So I say in the mirror match, this is very important to know because you can assume they'll pretty much have it. So I would never use Protocol on their effects in field, only in the hand in Multifaker or on grave. So for the Meluseek search and things like that, because I can guarantee that I'll hit it, as opposed to otherwise, I don't want to take the risk. I think this deck is a very all the game itself is very resource management, but especially for this, because you're tributing for cost, you really can't afford to just have it not go through and fizzle and be like, oh wow, that was a waste. If I use it and I'm tributing or sending for cost, it should be very effective when it's stopping. I am playing 3 today, but I think for next few builds, I might cut this to 2 to try and fit some more hand traps or maybe other floodgate cards, because it's a hard once per turn, so you can't activate it. Although in multiple, it's not bad, because if you just flip 1, and then when they're doing things, you can just flip the other one, sending this, because you can send another Altergeist card. It works out well in that case, but I think 3 was a bit too much since a lot of the monster effects I would normally stop didn't really come in. For this to happen in time, I think more hand traps were more effective, because the link for Sky Strikers, they will just use the effective rate to come back, and they'll still float. Trickstar, you can bounce the Candina with Icarus and things like that. So I think 2 would be a smarter choice. We also played 2 copies of the Manifestation. It's effectively the Call of the Haunted. This card is not once per turn as well. So if you have this set, and you activate it, they can go Call by the Grave. You can activate the other one to ensure that yours go through and save it. Since the Silk can bring back the traps, you can recycle this, and like I said, with the new updated text, the moment you activate and target, it no longer has to equip. So if you were to chain an MST or 10 Twisters, it still summons. So if you summon a Multifaker, it'll still go through. I play one copy of Elf. This is a trap monster. It's nice because you can set it from Marionetter immediately. So what it does is when it's on the field, neither player can target the Altergeist traps, but they also can't be destroyed by card effects. So when people understand the Altergeist matchup, and you know that for Protocol you're sending a monster for cost, and it's a continuous. If you don't flip out immediately, you can Ghost Ogre it, and it's still weak to Twin Twisters, which I know a lot of the Sky Strikers were either maining if they were going second or so. So when doing that, then you would just flip the Elf, and you would do that. And if this wasn't already targeted, and the other one is maybe another Altergeist card, you can flip that, and they would be protected in chain. And it being a trap monster is very nice because you can link someone with it. And a lot of the times, if you just have one monster, I would just have a card like Silk, just because we're running arguably low. Match count is 21 traps. There's a lot. If this is just set and we normal summon this, and we're trying to get plays to happen, you can special summon as a trap monster. You would link away for the Hextstia, and then because Silk's effect compared as a trap back, you would add this right back. And the Hextstia, you know that if they were to remove it anyway, it would float, netting you a search. So if it's before you activate this trap, you can get a Multifaker. Otherwise, you can get a defensive card like Conquer. It obviously depends on the situation. And it being the trap monster helps a lot because Hextstia isn't once per turn either. It's a link monster, you tribute what it's linked to negate a spell trap. So a lot of people, when they saw that I would just have the Hextstia and the Meluseek, and I would tribute this, and they think, okay, they can't do it, and they know I don't have Manifestation because you show what you said with the Marionetter. They don't really think this is a threat. The moment that's finished, after the resolution of that chain, you would just say, open game state, I'm going to use Elf, do it right underneath the Hextstia, and that's another negate they didn't see coming, and then you would just do that, because they would think, oh no, I was planning to Dark Hole or Regeki at that point, but you still have this. And it being a trap means that you can recur this monster with the Silk. And
right there, guys.
so we had to move locations, but the last card is Elf. Playing 3 copies of Personal Spoofing. I think this is pretty much on a must out of 3 of, since if you have it set and you have an Altergeist card, either on another trap or something in your hand, you can flip it, shuffle, search for the Multifaker, and summon it from there. I think just with that interaction, it makes it a very strong, despite the fact that it's not an Altergeist card and it is dead later on, but just having that initial turbo is too important to not have. 3 copies of the Infinite Transience. This is another kind of card because you would activate this when they're trying to build a board or so on, and if you combine this with Multifaker, it's really strong in terms of interruption just because this is their turn. 1 copy of Skill Drain. This has a very nice interaction with the Personal Spoofing because, Protocol, because Protocol says that this protects your Altergeist effects from being negated. So if you have the Skill Drain up and the Protocol up, you can effectively use pretty much all of your Altergeist effects still. While this is all up, you can still summon and it's all fine. The only thing that you can't do is, since it only says activated effects, you can't use Meluseek's effect to attack directly. You can do the battle damage effect, but the attack directly is a continuous effect, so that still gets negated by the skill drain. I saw some people thinking that this was like a complete protection. It's not the case, so just to keep in mind for that. But just because of that, it's a great card.
Spicy touch.
Absolutely. 3 copies of Torrential. This is just another great way of getting a Multifaker because you activate the Torrential, clear the board, and then Multifaker, now re-establishing your board after a board wipe, is an extremely strong instant follow-up. This is also the way we deal with, quite honestly, big monsters. So, for instance, like the Mech Knight Invoked matchup, we have like a lot of sets and they can just kind of like swarm and go from there. I can only stop so many at a time, even with the Conk Silk, the 3 monster and attacking kind of thing. But once you run them out of resources and do like a final clear, this really helps stop all that. And even when I went second, going against boards for Knightmare boards. If I had my hand trapped, I would stop them midway. You would have this and you would set it, and when they start trying to build up again or go for like the final blow, you flip the Torrential, and it's pretty devastating. I remember I had a player go Soul Charge for 5 because he thought like, oh, like, you know, that was it. It's all that's out left. He evenly me. So I just sat on the one Torrential because I just figured like a protocol set isn't going to be doing anything. So I sat on the one Torrential and I let him like, I was like, yeah, you can like go off, I guess, or so on. And then he did the Soul Charge for 5, brought the whole board. I enchanted the Torrential. Hurt too much. And I had the Multifaker in hand for the follow-up.
Oh my.
So that was just too much.
Blowout.
One copy of the Solemn Judgement. It's like really the only main deck way of, if they happen to have the Evenly or the Red Reboot, just if you happen to have this, it's the only way to stop that in this deck, main deck. And it's Solemn Judgement, so it's such a versatile card. I don't see why not. And Multifaker aren't like Paleos, where you can still resolve its effect even on counter traps. So, you know,
did it hurt you in time?
So the Solemn cards, I would just side out and see what it was. Even if I was going first and I was afraid that, you know, now he would have the Red Reboot, I should have another card to stop it. I didn't want to lose in time, so I would side it out. But game 1, you know, you use this and it helps too much. And then the last 4 cards, so this is for pretty much our meta call choices for Floodgates. We put 2 Anti-Spell and 2 Rivalry of Warlords, so these hurt primarily all of the meta, because the Anti-Spell stops the Sky Strikers. It does slow them a little, like this doesn't help them completely, but Rivalry, upon them playing like the token, hurts a lot, and if they'll chain to the normal summon of Kagari if you have Rivalry, but you can also just flip this immediately if you already know Sky Strikers. They have to think very carefully about how they play to out it, because they can't just, the moment they summon something, it's done, and they won't leave from there. That makes all 40 cards. So
on to the extra deck?
Extra deck? Sure.
Yep.
So the extra deck, we played the 1 copy of the Linkuriboh.
Yep.
For the Meluseek, and you know, just lucky we were in like North America, and we were able to have access to this, right? So
did you ever use its grave effect?
I did a bunch of times actually, because since Meluseek, the search is it's a once per turn. What you would do is, you know, you would negate the attack, and then if you still have a Meluseek on the field, and you know that, you know, you're probably gonna use the Meluseek again to search on your turn, you can just tribute the Meluseek for the Linkuriboh. It would stop another attack, because for them to just hit this, there's really no point. You might as well protect another attack, and you'll still float with the Meluseek. So it's, you know, that's all fair. Also, I found myself using this a lot because I think my target for Multifaker, it wasn't Silk most of the time. Most of the time, it was actually Meluseek, because on end phase, this would link you into the Hextstia. You could search for the Marionette for the normal summon, and just in general, I knew that a lot of the matchups, particularly if they were any Sky Striker variant, it was going to be a control grinding game. There's no point in bouncing something that they're just going to have access to again. So you go for a Meluseek for the special summon and continue getting card advantage from there. And then once you amount enough, then we can go for the Silk for the disruption. It really wasn't until I saw that they had a very, very combo-heavy aggressive deck like a Knightmare variant that I would be, you know, afraid if I wanted the interruption at that point that I would go into Silk. But since I think the meta overall is a little more slower, I afforded the Meluseek, especially for Trickstar, Sky Striker, and Mirror Match. Played 2 copies of Hextstia. Great card. This also searches any Altergeist card when it leaves the field, so I don't mind just ending on this as opposed to ending on really anything else. It has the effect where it gains the attack where it's linked to, so this is how we push for game OTK. And like I said, the effect to negate a spell is a once per turn. So when you use the effect of Multifaker, special here, etc., and then you tribute to negate, and they think they're done, this is where the 1 card that I like playing for, I guess you could say the tech, special summon the trap monster, and then they're like, oh, you know, I didn't really see that coming. That's here. And the new effect of where you can negate spell effect, I never actually used it, but just the fact that we have it, I think is nice. It's a welcome buff to the deck. So
field spells.
We play a copy of Kidolga. I don't really make this too much just because of the fact that it has a very strong effect where if another Altergeist monster does damage, you can special summon an opponent's monster to their graveyard, but unfortunately, if you use the effect of Multifaker, unless it's a mirror match, you can't summon anything other than Altergeist cards. So people would make this with Multifaker, like turboing it out, summoning, and this wasn't my opponent because I had Altergeist cards, but I saw next to me, they tried doing it, and they would like try and get a big monster, but their opponent said, no, use Multifaker effect, you can't do that. So now this is just dead, it's a 1000 attack, it doesn't really float, she has to survive battle, so that's why it's not a very strong reason, just because of the slow meta, you want to continue grinding them out, and the Hextstia float helps cycle your card advantage. But just in case I need to link, because I'll end with this, and some people they Cherries your Hextstia, this is just a way to clear that and get over it, you know? So we do play that. We also play a copy of the Knightmare Phoenix. It's a toolbox card, and I think just the fact that all these point down, like the ones we actually go into, we make the co-link and draw more often than we're able to. Most people would think, because they think this deck doesn't really link out of other than the archetype cards. It's a way to pop toolbox pertinent back row. Also it's also like a Cherries target for the Nightmares. We play a copy of Ningirsu because since we play Linkuriboh, everything else is linked too, so it's easy access to a Ningirsu, and the non-targeting removal, since a lot of our other targets, a lot of our other cards target, was very useful to have. I never actually went into it, but I just like the idea of having it. And theoretically, for World Chalice, even though we play Firewall, this is also a pre-rip too. So again, for the Cherries Firewall, I went against a Spiral Goki player where I didn't have Cherries upon having his board. I just had the Droll, but then drawing, I drew into Cherries, and I looked at his board. He already I sold, so I just ripped Firewall from there, because when he tried to go back and establish his board, he really didn't have enough, and because he ended not with this, obscene Nightmare board, you were able to pick off negates and bounces at certain moments to hit it, because he didn't have Firewall for an effect. And the same thing with the Trickstars and Scapegoats, when that they can OTK you, this stops them, and now they think, oh, and I have to do something else, because you can kind of tell when they know, like, okay, I can do the Firewall loop for a game. Play one copy of the Mechaba. It's really nice because you can actually chain Cherries to the activation of Invocation and then banish the Mechaba, and if they have any other invokes in their extra deck, they still have to fulfill the fusion summon of Invocation since the effect itself wasn't negated. So if they play anything pretty bad, like I guess just Fire, since they happen to have that, and they have to make it regardless, and this is really funny because it's like you're still forced to make it. Sky Striker targets, we play the red and the blue. A lot of people say you don't need the blue, you just need the red, but because when you activate Cherries, the main monster Ray can tribute and link immediately to Kagari. In that case, when they do that, when the chain link comes back to the Cherries, I'll actually banish the blue, because now they can't link out of this, and if anything, the blue has a recurring effect. This is just on summon. So the only way for them to have this leave is to link summon again with Ray, normal summon Ray and link summon again out if they wanted to get out of this and kind of help recycle it. So having both was really strong, and obviously to play the token, you would rip this off the start of it. Play a copy of Double Helix. Shout out to my friend Zuki, where he signed it, because I needed a copy of Double Helix for the Spiral matchup. And then we have the Ice Sold that we used for the Gokis, and signed by Asian Persuasion. I'm really glad I managed to catch him for the signature, because we had a funny little interaction in day one towards the end of the rounds. It was pretty rough since we both pretty much needed to secure our last wins. It was round 8 or 9, I believe, and we had to win that. We wanted to pretty much guarantee making it to day 2 since we already had a loss. And I look at my table number and I see Asian Persuasion at the table, and I'm like, oh no, it's him. He's like, I love him as like a YouTuber. So yeah, I saw Asian Persuasion at my table, and I looked at him and I said, I don't say the guy's real name, but I didn't realize your name was Jake or so, because obviously I know that's not his real name. He's like, oh wait, what? And he looks at his phone, he's like, oh, I got the wrong table. But after that, he caught up after and just check in how we did with rounds, and I was like, so I'm a big fan of yours, and he signed it, and just nice little story, right? We also play Heavymetalfoes Electrumite because this rips the Pendulum matchup, and honestly, you still have to respect the deck in terms of its potency. Zephyras, they've only had Astrograph hit, but they can still play the Chronograph with level 6s, so they can have the Naruto and the Mythical Beast Cerberus along with this, and I'm just thinking, well, it's like the same ending board, but instead of Vortex, it's the Mythical Beast, and I'm like, so this is still pretty strong. And the last two targets were Toad and the ABC Dragon Buster, which I didn't end up seeing, but just wanted to have, you know, extra cherry targets just in case. If I wasn't really so worried about maximizing my cherry targets in the extra deck, the only thing I would fit one more of is maybe the Akashic Magician, because since you know, I'm getting right to my side, I play Kaiju, so you can go Kaiju, bounce, Akashic, Kaiju, bounce, and just you know, and you just to hit all their monsters with that. So you don't even need Seer mode for that case, but you know, that helps.
That is kind of broken. That's pretty broken.
So this is our side deck. I only have 14 cards because the last card was a Solemn Warning, which my friend is currently using right now for a side event. I actually don't agree with the Solemn Warning because it's sided, and with the new YCS rules, I realized I don't want to side into it. It was just because, like, I guess maybe Denko went into Solemn card, but if I had any other choice, I guess maybe an Ash or just something else. I really don't know. It's, you know, 14 is just one card. You can't play multiple copies of it. But the other 14 cards I think were really solid. So we played 3 copies of the Wiretap. This is a Stop Red Reboot. I don't think Altergeist players should play Red Reboot because we allowed the player that activated the trap to set that card that was activated and another trap. And since you're trying to play a card advantage game, this isn't worth it. And for matches where traps are really important to not have in the grave, such as the Paleos, we don't want them to recur the Paleos, or even for Altergeist as well, because Shufflehead's deck is just, you know, better, and we don't lose to 7 tools by paying 1,000. So this is nice. Then we played 3 copies of Evenly Matched. This is a great card because it clears their board going second, and it's a trap card, meaning it has the synergy with Multifaker, even going first. There's this move that I kind of had where if I only opened up these 2, I would normal summon the Meluseek and I would attack, and I don't think it's directly for me just trying to poke and move away a card, but I would say no, I'll probably just crash, and they're like, okay, so you crash, and then you search for the Multifaker, and then you go end the battle phase, activate Evenly Matched, and then after Evenly Matched you do the Multifaker, because there's one card you can just go Silk, bounce 1, and now it's the entire board is cleared. So yeah, absolutely. And then that's only 2 cards. So if you're going second, you have 4 cards. So probably all traps and stuff that you can just set, and it just really hurts. This is Typhoon. It's another card that you can activate from your hands. I never actually thought I sided this going second because I didn't really see a reason to side this in going second because no one played Draco, or I wanted to hit a Diagram or a Heritage or Pendulum to hit the scales. But this was nice just to have against the mirror match, because having the back row to pop the protocol after they activate it is very strong, and they don't play Elf like I do, so it's just gone. It's just a free plus. Then we play this card, Temple of the Kings. So what this card does, it allows you to activate 1 trap card of the turn it's set. I was originally main decking it, but I cut it because I was afraid I just wanted more hand traps to have. But what you can do is, if you go first and you activate this along with the cards such as Spoofing, it's such a great way to establish board, because you'll activate this, you'll set Spoofing, you'll activate Spoofing, you know, shuffle, search for the Multifaker summon, and then you'll summon the Meluseek, you'll link away for the Hextstia, and then from the search for the Meluseek, you'll search for Marionetter, which is your normal summon. You normal summon the Marionetter right under there. You'll activate its effect, set another trap. So this, because we have 3 protocols, so we always open the protocol. You have that, and then you can just set all your the other traps that you happen to open. And then I would also use Marionetter's effect to switch out and go into a Meluseek. That way now we have a floater when we tribute. This gives us more attack, but the attack isn't really worth it. I'd rather have a floater, because now if that floats, I can search into something such as a Conk to really go in, or a Multifaker if I don't already have it, or even from here, you're just able to have. I just think it's better defensively, really. That's pretty much it. But yeah, you can do all that turn 1 with the Temple of the Kings, and it's just really nice. So having decided in either first or second, was just really good. I would only play this if I knew that it would be. So if I, kind of cut off, but I would set this in if I thought I really needed the turbo to activate that. Because most other cards I just felt like the chops would be fine to grind out, but this helped you with the little push. It's a one of because again it's you don't want to open multiples of it like a Secret Village Spellcasters, but top decking it is or even just having it on field is nice because if you top deck something like the Manifestation and then you just immediately set it and then you trigger it, you can just it's a great boost. Last is a Kaiju package that we play. I knew I wanted to play the Kaiju just because of the interaction with Silk, since like I said, you would just bounce the Kaijus back and you would continue to recur that. This is really effective. I just played 3 different names so I could play Slumber, which was a board wipe, since I didn't really have anything else other than the evenly matches. But this allows me to still attack and push damage, and if you do this and you give them a card like the Gamacil or Mungus, and so like we're trying to push for damage because it's probably time because of the YCS or so on. You can bounce the Kaiju away, and then you just get a free 2,700 poke-in, along with Silk, which would be 8. So that was really effective for me to help punch in for more damage that the deck can't normally afford within the archetype. And that's pretty much it.
All right, thank you, Eric. Any shout-outs?
Shout out to you, Mo. Thank you for doing this deck profile. It's my first one, so I hope it was okay. Shout out to the goons and people like Steve that drove me here and housed me for all this. Everyone that I theory tested and played with, like Bruce that plays the mirror and Mamoon that played the same deck as well.
That's it?
Yeah.